Do you feel environmental exposure ever creates changes in people's hormones? Do you ever talk about that at all?
Tons. Yeah. So that's going back to the spectrum, because everything exists on a spectrum for me. It's if you are, I'll say, more old school versus more hippie. And hippie is the wrong way to really talk about it, because all these concepts and not just theories, but the machinery and everything involved been around for like 100 plus years. We've talked about light and grounding even more than 100 years. Like that goes back forever, right?
Yeah, totally.
So to me, try and make sure everyone gets, I call it a PBO walk. So parasympathetic beta oxidation. So that means the energy system you're using at rest. So when you take your walks outside, I like people don't care about your heart rate. It should actually drop as you're walking. You should be calm. You should be parasympathetic. You should be taking in the positive, coherent scalar waves of the universe. You should be getting that Schumann resonance from the earth. You should be looking at the birds and the trees or whatever they say, right? The birds and the bees. There you go. Like looking at everything and just enjoying nature, right? Or talking with your spouse or your kids or whatever. Those walks should be relaxing. When you're in that environment, you'll get into this PBO state where you're using fueled adipocyte stores as actual energy. So we're actually pulling intramuscular triglycerides out to fuel the actual walk. So those little walks outside can drive more fat loss than a lot of the lifts and the HIIT actually can. So we're using them for different purposes. But by doing that walk, you're also getting all that positive cosmic radiation, the positive energetic waves, the photonic exchange from the sun, the environment. You're getting the nature exposure. If you have a lot of foliage around, that'll cause more infrared light to be trapped inside mitochondria. Like it's only positive. So you get home from that, stand outside in the grass for 10 minutes. Or if you could take your walk barefoot the whole time, that'd be cool. But most people can't do that. But right there, 20 minutes, right? Just getting outside and walking for 10 minutes and then standing in the grass for 10 minutes or doing them both simultaneously, depending on where you live. That's covering a lot of your bases because you're getting the electron donation from the earth through the feet. The bottom of your feet have the biggest pores in your body. It's going to pull out a lot of those endotoxins. And to me, 10, 20 minutes. Like it could be as simple as that just to get that moving in the right direction. So yeah, so you start from there, then you slowly go up. Okay, do we want to start going into more of a non-coherent EMF conversation, the structured water conversation? How much money does someone have? Because that matters. If you're trying to buy like a water structure unit for the house, that could be anywhere from 1 to 10 grand. If you're trying to get something to manage like non-coherent EMF exposure, that could be $20 or like 5,000, depending on what you're trying to do in the space. So you have a big range there.
Of course.
Ooh, I'm actually interested in terms of like frequencies, sound, vibration related to maybe the subquantum field, related to maybe certain cells, the setting, the environment, the psychological component of who you surround yourself with absolutely matters. But going back to optimizing a person related to frequencies or vibrational maybe tendencies, goal dependent for each person, but I think we all know that frequencies, certain cells and certain organs respond to different frequencies in that regard. How in depth do you go with that?
So it all depends on how open they are. The more open they are, the more things will layer in. So no matter what, you start low and slow. Because like I made the mistake of being overzealous. We built this house about 1.5 years ago. It's our dream house. One of the first things I did was like 7 quantum blocks everywhere. So that's the Lila quantum, or again, look like quantum stacks and generators, and essentially creating that whole quantum field environment. We've had our LOC tested, our level of consciousness on our property. And it's at a 550, which is the same level of consciousness as like temples and churches and things like that.
Wow.
Whereas if you would
test that, if I may.
So there's a company, LFLE. I also have their product on the house as well. They're a great company. They can actually test that for you. And LOC wise, yeah, it's cool. It's just interesting to know because a lot of people that I've talked to are like at 100, 200 and more of those. If you're in an apartment complex, for example, you're getting everything from everyone. So you got to do a lot of work on yourself. But getting back to the original question, if someone's receptive to it, we'll start low and build up. Again, I knew I was making a mistake, but I just wanted to do everything at one time because that's how we get sometimes the shiny object syndrome. And no one in the house could sleep for a month. We were all stimulated like crazy. We were not sleeping great. We felt amazing, but like everyone's sleep was off. And it was because we had so much of a change at a mitochondrial level. So we're just kicking out so much ATP and making cells more incoherent, coherent now. So that was from the quantum blocks. And you can go down the list of the quantum upgrade, which is more mobile, the LFLE stuff, same kind of thing, mobile, like the quantum upgrade. You also have Blue Shield, which is more, because you have these different kinds of devices, more active, passive, and dynamic. So things like the Heal capsule and like the Eris technology, those are more on the passive devices, which definitely work. Blue Shield is more on the active and dynamic side of things. So I still have to outfit the whole house in that, but it's one thing at a time, because if not, again, you will literally cause hyperpolarization. And you also have to remember, you're not the only person in your house. I have 4 kids, 4 dogs, and a wife. And if I can handle it, doesn't mean that they can handle it. So we had to slowly implement this. So I try to make sure everyone knows that. But like the Blue Shield, for example, it'll create essentially not an interference effect, but it'll create and mimic the same frequencies of nature if you go outside that it produces, whether it's looking at like Schumann resonance or things like that. You're looking at like the golden geometry and phi ratios and Fibonacci sequences, things like that. But what it'll do is it'll make enough of a frequency effect that'll basically blunt out the effects you're getting from your technologies, the frequencies they give off. So to take a step back, if you have a transverse wave versus a longitudinal wave, and all of this happens for everything, but you have that wave and it'll create different types of oscillations, right? So if you have that transverse wave, it's creating those oscillations up and down. That'll create a scalar wave, which is more longitudinal, which is more going side to side. So every electrical field will create a magnetic field, and the oscillations will change those. So normally people hear scalar waves and they think that, oh, it's automatically good. It's obviously coherent waves. It could be constructive or deconstructive. So it depends a lot more on the device it's coming from, the proximity of like how close you are to it, duration of exposure, like all of these things matter. So to me, I never thought it made sense to do one thing. I think we live in so much. Like right now, I have 1, 2, 3 computers. I bought a new one over there for my new bioresonance device. Like I have so much technology here. This is not natural. I have lights on me now to make sure I show up good for the camera. This isn't natural. So I think we live in such a soup of non-coherent exposure that I think layering things over time is the best route to go. And then I always try and do things in application. So if it doesn't work in person, and in reality, who cares, right? And with everyone I found, okay, we'd have a Blue Shield device layered in, or a Lila quantum block, or a quantum upgrade, or the LFLE, or the Aries. And as you slowly layer these things in, people feel better and better. And I've even had people hide it from their families, hide it in the house. Don't tell anyone you turned it on, just observe. I did that with my wife, and she would walk past and she'd be like, why is it different here? It's up by my daughter's room. And it was because I hit a quantum block there. And so I like, because especially she's a skeptic with all this stuff. She understands it now and gets it, but you can taste the difference in your water if you put it in a quantum block. It'll alter the spin. So their second gen, or they have a newer one now. It's the Super Infinity block, I believe. The one before that's like a 5.8 on the Hawkins scale, 5.8K. And so it can alter the spin of deuterium. So deuterium's still in there, but it's not resonating the same. So if it's not resonating the same, then that means it's not going to function like deuterium in your body. You can actually excrete that. So it'll actually structure and order your water. The newer ones, which I still have to buy, I guess I can't because I have too much stuff here as it is, but that's an even higher. I think that's 8K on the Hawkins scale. So the amount of changes it makes is pretty drastic. But regardless, you can start off with so many different areas to this conversation. And so it's like you slowly ease into it, one thing at a time, really test and gauge your response. There are people that are hyper responders, and then everything else, right? They can't even handle like a heal capsule, or they can't handle anything. They are just that cellularly robust, and they feel worse with these devices. So you also don't want to buy 100 things and have nothing work for you. I'd say that's probably only 10% of people. There's not that many people that don't need help on the whole EMF and subquantum side of things. So most people can handle the stuff, but I still like the slow incremental approach.
Well, now I got to ask. I didn't know you were going to pull me into this conversation, but I am curious. A lot of people have been talking about the EMF situation with the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm curious, how much of that is improper training, or how much of it is now this anomaly that we're talking about?
And people may not realize what Dr. Addy is referring to. For those that are listening, essentially on one part of their San Francisco 49ers training area, that there's a lot of injuries that are happening, and that could be related to, what is it, a power facility, I think, nearby within a certain radius. Thoughts?
Yeah.
I've seen enough MRI scans to see people that are overly exposed to those high electromagnetic fields and collagen degradation like crazy. Okay. You see these wacky amounts of muscle injuries and tears and ruptures you don't see anywhere else. And so it's never just that, but that's definitely not helping. So to me, if you had to say 100%, 50%, I say that's a 50% player. I'm working now to try, because I'm trying to get it all widespread, not just the whole coherent EMF world, but also the water structuring and all these things. I'm trying to affect at the highest level with the pro athletes and the teams I know and work with. So then everyone, general population wise, sees that and goes, oh, if they care about it, I should care about it. And then to me, that affects the world the fastest and best way. It's like, get the cool people to do it, then everyone else will follow. Like, sadly, that's how the world works. And like with Lila Quantum, got them connected with the Giants, so that'll get rolling. Have some, I want to get Blue Shield connected with a couple teams, me and Brandon. I just messaged them yesterday about that. But I want to slowly get it more introduced to this. And the hard part, like at that level for the NFL, is although there is more money than you can imagine in it, no one wants to pay for these little things that to them are still mystical. And so I'm trying to collect with another individual, we're trying to collect enough MRI scans to show pre-exposure and post-exposure. And then what happens after that when you layer in something like a Blue Shield, like a Lila Quantum, like an Aries, and slowly see not only which ones work the best, but stacking them and really see collagen rebuild itself, muscular architecture rebuild itself. Because I've done all this stuff for all these athletes recovering from major injuries. That's why they recover so fast. But it's like getting a whole team to do that is way harder than just getting one athlete to do that. So
for sure.
It's definitely a real thing. And slowly it's getting talked about more than it should.